Hello and welcome to Don't Catch That Shit. I'm your host Deekay, and today we are going to discuss about another very important topic, and the topic is atheism. If we look at what is atheism, then we need to get into the depth of the subject, what it means by being an atheist, how an atheist looks at the world. What is the narrative of an atheist towards the entire world, towards how everything functions, about the nature, and we would get to know a lot of things about why do people become atheist and why they are not believing in something which we often call as higher powers or God or some divinity. This philosophy of atheism is nothing new. It has been there in ancient time as well. If we look at the history of Bharat, then we'll come to know that this atheism is not the modern age philosophy or modern age perspective of looking at the world. Even in the era of the ancient Indian civilization, we used to have a lot of people who used to be having uh, atheism as their perspective of looking at the world. So it's nothing new, but over the period of time, it has transformed into something which is very dangerous. In today's era, it has taken a shape where it has become kind of a very negative perspective about the world. This atheism is about looking at the world from the perspective that this world is working on its own. If you ask an atheist, like who is running the whole world, then the atheist will typically say that this world is working on its own. And they will say that everything came on its own. They will cite the example of like wind is flowing on its own, the rain is happening on its own. At max, they will give some scientific reasons of rain coming or wind blowing. So they would not be ready to accept that there is some higher intelligence behind working of all these things. They won't be having any kind of belief, any kind of notion of someone or something is behind functioning of the whole universe. So they would not give any kind of credit to any kind of higher intelligence behind the working of this universe. So this is the main crux of atheism. They do not believe in some higher power, some higher entity who is running the show, uh, and there is reason behind that. The reason behind being an atheist is that atheist looks at the world from the perspective of the five senses. So If you look at an atheist perspective, they say that I would believe in what I can see, what I can feel, what I can have a tangible notion about it. And if you would ask an atheist that if there is any kind of concept of soul or atma, or if there is any kind of notion of a deity or of a divine power, then their argument is that they don't want to believe in anything that they cannot feel, that they cannot touch, that they cannot verify through the mechanism that they have in their hand. So that is one thing that they often rationalize about the existence of some higher power, because from their perspective, they cannot see God, they cannot see some divine power, they cannot see some higher intelligence. And since they cannot see it, they would like not to believe in that. And that is fine to some extent, that unless until you experience it, unless until you see that, you would not want to believe in that experience. And if it is the experience of someone else, they would want to deny that also. They would reject that. If someone comes and tells them that this is their experience about higher intelligence, about divinity, about God, or about some high powers, experience of trance, and how if someone would tell them about the out of body experience or some experience of some different dimension, they would not believe in that also. Because if they believe in that, if they would accept that, then atheism will be gone. Because then in that case, they would have to accept that there is something beyond this dimension of body and mind, or physical dimension. Then they will have to start accepting some other dimension which is beyond the dimension of physical dimension. So that is one thing. Then the problem lies when they would reject something without inquiring about that. The problem is not that you don't want to believe in something. It is perfectly all right. In fact, nobody should believe in something unless until it is their own experience. But if you reject something because you did not have an experience about that, and the bigger problem is that you don't even want to experience something that is not to be experienced through the five senses. And you don't want to put effort into that. And those who are putting the efforts to know some higher dimensions, the spiritual dimension, the dimension which is beyond the body and mind mechanism, they would ridicule that as well. So you don't want to put an effort in knowing something which is beyond the dimension of physical dimension. At the same time, you would not appreciate those who are putting the efforts to know that. And they are having their own experience of a spiritual dimension. So atheism has this big problem that they are stuck, they are stagnated. They believed in the non-existence of something, though they blame others about believing in something, but they themselves believe in non-existence of some higher dimension, non-existence of some entire intelligence. So their belief is right. What they believe into is right, the non-existence. But someone else's belief of existence of something is wrong. So that is a contradiction here. And the problem lies not about believing or not believing. The problem lies that how much effort you put into that. Why don't you try yourself? But they don't want to get into that as well. So, if you put some effort to know a dimension behind the working of this physical dimension, you would not be appreciated by these people. You are simply someone who is having a blind faith. They don't want to understand that there is a mechanism to reach the dimension which is not visible dimension. And no matter how scientific that dimension could be, the seeking of spiritual dimension is given in Indian context, Indian spiritual context. There are a lot of methods, step by step methods, by which you can experience a dimension which is beyond the physical dimension. But they don't want to study that. They don't want to get into that kind of thing. They would simply say that whatever is not comprehended by the five senses, by their limited body mind mechanism, does not exist. So for them, this higher intelligence, this higher power called God, does not exist. Even the Indian spirituality would often start with this attitude of not believing in something. Even I would say that you stop believing in anything, but that doesn't mean that you stop seeking something. Not believing something is perfectly all right, but not seeking that is not all right. That's where the problem with atheism lies. So it's very easy to deny the existence of something that you cannot experience. It's very easy to say that, oh, I cannot experience it. I cannot see the God. I cannot see some higher dimension. I cannot see your devas, your devis. I cannot see which kind of higher energy you're talking about. You cannot see the subtle energies through your five senses. There are ways, there are methods, there are practices that leads you towards experience of subtle dimension, which is beyond the physical dimension. But instead of seeking that, instead of having those kind of efforts, you would want to deny that. That is something where your rigidness comes into picture. You are not flexible enough to accept that there are things which are beyond the dimension of physical dimension. There are a lot of things which are working behind this visible universe. So, if you would talk to them about the notion of consciousness, the Chetna, that is also referred as soul, they would not want to understand beyond the mechanism of functioning of brain. For them, everything is mind, but they would not accept this mind is also a conditioned consciousness. And to reach to a consciousness which is not conditioned, there are ways to reach to that experience of having pure consciousness. But they would want to deny that. So my my advice to these people is that instead of denying the existence of something that you not believe in, you try to get into the shoes of someone else who is putting their effort into knowing something which exists, but you can't see that. Your physical eyes cannot see subtle things. Your instrument cannot capture the dimensions which are working behind these physical dimensions. That doesn't mean that dimension does not exist. Instead of using this approach of rejecting anything that does not fit in your framework of understanding, you should start understanding the framework that has been led by our ancestors, the sages, the rishis, the gurus who have worked on these frameworks. who have given the proper path, the yogic system, the tantras, and so many other things by which seekers and Sanatan Dharma, the practices, a lot of practices are there where people have gone beyond the body and mind mechanism. They have reached to the experience of pure consciousness, which is beyond this limitation of five senses, this limitation of having a perception through your emotions, through your thoughts, your capacity to judge and discriminate, evaluate things. And these are the subjective judgments, the subjective experience, because your mind is conditioned through your own individuality. But when you go beyond that, when you transcend your mind, you reach to consciousness, to Chetana, which is pure, unconditioned by these limitations of body and mind of five senses. Next time, when you have this deep urge of rejecting theism, rejecting the existence of some higher powers, why don't you have a pause, rethink about that, and try to understand why so many spiritual seekers, why they are putting efforts to know something, and how do they feel bliss out of that? How do they find a meaning in that path? Why do so many people from many decades, from the time era of Ramayana, Mahabharata, and this current age also, why are so many people, they are behind these spiritual experiences? There has to be something, right? If it is not your experience, then it is not an experience. So stop living in that denial. Stop living in the denial that if the God is there, then why don't He come and show? You know, the atheists always say that if the God is there, why the God is not appearing? You need to understand the concept of God in the spiritual context. The notion of God is not like a figure who would come in front of you and who would come and say that, oh, I'm God, and like that. If the God comes in front of you, and then you all will stop working and, like just try to be with the God alone. That is not the right way of approaching the creation. In this mentalistic dimension, there are a lot of ways in which the whole existence is functioning. And the whole existence is functioning with the notion of creation, maintenance, and sustenance. The whole nature is so intelligent. The whole nature knows how to sustain itself, how to get into the creation and then sustenance and the dissolution of something that is not needed. This highly intelligent nature has not come from some void. It has come from something which is highly intelligent. It has to come that way. If the entire solar system is functioning in a way that the Earth itself is like a bowl, and the whole solar system is functioning so intelligently, even if let's say if you have to lift something, you have to move one ball from here to there, or pick a bottle and put it somewhere else, then there is a thought that comes in your mind for just these small actions. Behind every action, there is some thought, right? You choose to do something. Behind these actions, your mind is working, right? All these activities are happening through you, through your mind. Now, imagine that if such a vast universe is functioning and it is functioning in a very highly intelligent way, if the earth is moving around sun, also it is moving on its own axis, then there has to be some thought behind it, some highly intelligent mind behind it. We call that as higher dimension. We call that as higher intelligence. And we refer to that as God. If you understand it that way, that such highly intelligent things do not exist in random, okay? You need to understand that. If you have a close eye to observe this nature, then you would come to know that there is some highly evolved mind. There is some higher intelligence which is making all these things working. So instead of denying that, instead of saying, oh, I can't see it, so why should I believe in that? It is fine. Do not believe in that. But at the same time, don't stop yourself to seek that. Don't ridicule others who are putting their efforts in seeking the truth of our existence, truth of the existence of this whole universe. You yourself has not created yourself. How your body and mind mechanism is working so amazingly, so beautiful. Which kind of intelligence is making your heart beat? Which kind of intelligence is ensuring your digestion? So if you try to understand that there is some power which is working on behalf of you as well, then instead of denying the existence of that, you can have the approach of seeking that. Yoga is that approach of seeking the higher truth. Yoga is the approach of going beyond the limitation of your body and mind mechanism. Yoga is the method, the practice by which you can have the sixth sense or the subtle senses. Through that you can actually experience the subtle dimension, the spiritual dimension. So just by having the limitation of five senses and ridiculing the existence of something else is not the right approach. At some point, when I also started seeking, then before that, I was also like that, not believing in something that I haven't seen. That is fine. I still do that. But I would never say that if someone else has experienced something that I don't know, I won't start ridiculing that or just say, okay, this is not possible or this experience is false experience. It cannot exist because if I don't know, it doesn't exist. That should not be the approach. Next time when you have an urge, a craving to ridicule someone for their efforts in knowing something that you don't know, something that you have not experienced, then please have a pause and use your rational mind to closely observe the nature, closely observe the higher dimension, which is making everything working. And once you start to explore in that dimension, once you start to seek instead of believing, then you will come to know what is theism all about. Why do people seek? And after seeking, when they have their own experiences, and those experiences perfectly aligns with what our ancient seekers, what our rishis, what the great sages has said about the existence of higher dimension, of spiritual entities, then you will come to know the real truth. So you need to understand that instead of denying the wakeful state. When you are in a dream state, you open your eyes, get out of the dream state, get into the wakeful state, and then only you will come to know that which kind of dream state you are living in. Thank you.
असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतं गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः.
Keep writing, stay safe, stay healthy, remain aware and conscious, become the part of this movement. Until the next episode, be peaceful, blissful, and be aware.
निरंतर